Hello, welcome to HHBSO Something is Off with me, just Joey T. I'm back. I am back from Seoul, from South Korea, and I've got I've got stories. Nothing big, but just a bunch of little things. So that's gonna be the topic of this week's podcast. But before I get into my time overseas, I just want to say I think since I came back, I've been feeling kind of very blah. Like today, for example, I just didn't feel like doing anything. Like nothing, not even maybe things that are purely fun. And it's a little bit of a recurring theme in a way for like the past several months. I think maybe in some way I missed the structure of a regular job where you just kind of know what to do all the time. I don't think I inherently have the self-starterness or the level of initiative it takes to just sit down and do work when no one's telling me to sit down and do work, because I'm so used to my entire life, someone, parents, teachers, your boss, whoever, saying, okay, this is what you need to do, go do it. So, yeah, just feeling a little bit I was at the gym just now. Was my first session at the gym after flying back home. Even that, it was kind of like, I don't really feel like here. I don't want to be here. I've got a bunch of injuries as well. A bunch of little injuries. One of which was from Seoul. So, okay. The other thing I'll say before we get into it is I do look at my YouTube comments for all of the podcast episodes, and I am getting some questions about the cruise. I'm not ignoring them. Please continue. If there's anything you are curious about, any questions about the cruise, or just comments even, feel free to leave them on any episode of the podcast on the YouTube channel, Just Joey T. I am just waiting for enough questions and comments so that I can make a episode out of it, so that we have a dedicated cruise Q&A. I want that to be kind of sort of like a regular thing. So not ignoring you, keep setting those in. Oh, all right. Let's get into the adventures of Seoul, or my misadventures, if you will. So going there was fine. I had a direct flight on an A380, a double-decker, which I've been wanting to fly again for a while. So this was a nice chance to do it. Direct from LA to Seoul. And it wasn't a full flight. I had a whole exit row to myself. So more legroom than you will find in business class or even first class, honestly. And I was in a seat, and there were 3 other seats in front of me. We were in like the middle part of the plane. I basically had these 4 exit row seats all to myself. So after we took off, I moved one seat in, and then I had the seat next to me. I put the armrest up, so I had this like extra wide seat. And then the seat to my right, I put the table down so I could put extra stuff on it. So it was really great. I was so, in a way, happy when I was on the flight, even before we took off, that I didn't even mind when I noticed there's a child that was sitting right behind me. Usually, I don't want to be near any kids. No offense to people that have kids, that want kids, whatever. Kids, especially younger kids, don't tend to love flying on an airplane because it's a very controlled, restrictive environment. And more often than not, kids don't want to sit there for 12 hours. They want to stay in a confined little spot for 12 hours where it's not really great to be running around or to be jumping or making, kids do these things, right? But this kid was like super well behaved. Didn't hear a peep from this person. But I didn't even care that there was a young child sitting right behind me while we were boarding. Usually I would be rolling my eyes and doing all that kind of stuff in my head. But I was in a pretty good mood, not in like a super obviously way, but like I was feeling pretty good. Internally, I was feeling very good. The flight itself is very pleasant, nothing noteworthy. They serve bibimbap on the flight. It's a Korean airline, so I kind of expected they would. Tasted delicious. And when I got to Seoul, it was fine. Made my way to the hotel. All of that was good. So that part is not the interesting part of the trip. I planned to spend about a week there. So there was a circuit party called the Moonlight Parties that was happening the coming weekend, and I got there the Monday before. That's when I arrived, just to have a few days to do some collabs. Link is in, I guess not this description. You know where to find it. Anyways, the collabs, I don't want to say a ton about them. I think the only thing I will say is I didn't maybe get as many collabs I would have wanted, and I definitely learned some lessons about planning collabs overseas. Just that, when you take a trip with the intent to do collabs, if that's part of the purpose of the trip with other creators, it's a risk, right? Because you have to invest all this money to get the flights, schedule a bunch of time out of your regular schedule because it takes time to travel and go somewhere. And there's like jet lag, and you're not familiar with like the local area. If you need some supplies, you're not too sure like which stores has what, that kind of stuff. So there's always risk, especially kind of, financially, you might not get a return on your money. So I think this trip, I don't think I will get a return on my investment financially in terms of I didn't do as many as I had planned. I basically tricked myself into thinking, there's this party, and my friend Jay, my really good friend Jay from Sydney was going to go to that party. And I kind of like the concept of Seoul, like concept of going to Korea, but I'm into K-pop and all that stuff. And I kind of tricked myself into thinking, if I just did X number of collabs, I can make it worth it to like spend the points or dollars or whatever. I think that turned out to be not true, but it is what it is. Anyways, so I ended up eating, this is not the part that you guys are going to be, what that most people are not going to be approved. I ate just the breakfast buffet that's at the hotel and McDonald's for, I think, 3 days. For the time that I was at this first hotel. So for the first 3 or so days that I was in Korea. The breakfast buffet was like, I had to pay for it, but it wasn't super expensive. And I could just like pick and choose what I want to eat. And then the rest of the time, I just ate McDonald's for like lunch and dinner. Now, this sounds super gross to probably a lot of people. And I don't necessarily disagree with you. But because of my IBS, and because I was doing these collabs, I had to be very careful about what I ate to minimize the risk of triggering my IBS symptoms. And luckily, it worked out super well. I didn't have any symptoms at all. I had like no gas, because one of the first signs, one of the more minor symptoms of IBS, if you eat something that is maybe not super great with your gut, is you get the gurgling in your intestines and you get some extra gas. I had no gurgling, basically zero symptoms. I took a little bit of Imodium, especially for the first few days, just as like a little extra. I took like the half the adult dosage or something because I didn't want to be super backed up. But when I went to McDonald's, I would get some sort of burger. And the great thing is, in Seoul at least, a lot of the McDonald's, they basically have this giant touchscreen near the entrance or somewhere in the restaurant that you can order from. And there's always an English option on those machines, no matter where you are in the world. So the menu was in English. I've never actually seen the times I actually went there. I don't think anyone walked up to the counter to order. I'm not sure they had in-person ordering at the counter. I think you just had to go to the machines. Anyways, but on the machine, it's very easy to customize the burger that you're ordering. You can basically subtract ingredients, whatever came with it. So I would order double quarter pounder, let's say. Take out the pickles and take out the ketchup, because those are potentially high FODMAP, which is not great for most people with IBS. And you can't delete the bun, because McDonald's doesn't do that. They don't do like lettuce wraps or animal style or whatever. But the bun is wheat, and wheat is high FODMAP. So I shouldn't be eating that. So I would take out the pickles, take out the ketchup. I can leave the cheese. The patties are obviously in there. If it's got lettuce and tomatoes, those are fine. When I get the burger, I would basically not eat the bun, but eat everything else. To some people, this sounds super hippy-dippy. This is just my current medical reality. If I'm going to be bottoming all the time, and I just have to make sure, be a little extra careful not to eat certain things. I mentioned this once on a previous episode podcast. For someone who doesn't bottom, this is maybe not as big of an issue, but I'm bottom and I have sex and I make adult content. This is like all the things that make having IBS even more difficult. Because if it was like, I think you can imagine, I don't think I need to go into details, like you can do the math, okay? With those three things, having IBS is more difficult than maybe for the average person. I'll leave it at that. Anyways, but I can have fries. That's the only other thing I can eat because it's potatoes and oil, just some seasoning on it. Seasoning on stuff is really hard because onion powder and garlic powder usually is a big no-no for people that have IBS. And there are certain things that I would usually eat at McDonald's that I don't eat because it has seasoning, but they don't say what's in that seasoning. But most of the time, if something has quote-unquote seasoning, it has onion powder and garlic powder. Those are very common seasonings to add to almost anything. Chicken McNuggets, I love to eat them, but I chose not to. Hash browns at McDonald's, I love hash browns at McDonald's. I love hash browns in general. I can't eat that. So yeah, I had to forego those things. So that was like one of the weird things. And yeah, I just ate McDonald's and I had the breakfast buffet. Hotel had a very lovely like buffet style restaurant. They did a breakfast buffet, also did a buffet for lunch and for dinner. And the lunch was quite a bit more expensive and the dinner even more so. So I just did like, okay, I'll let myself have the breakfast buffet. Turns out to be $22 each time, which was like, okay. And I ate much more healthily for breakfast. So they had fish, they had smoked salmon, and they had tomatoes. They had this, oh my God, they had this butternuts. Is it butternuts? No, it was this pumpkin salad. They call it a salad, but it's not really salad. Basically is pumpkin mash, like mashed pumpkins, and then they had maybe some pumpkin seeds or something else in it. And it was quite sweet. They probably added a little bit of sugar, but it was so delicious that I had basically a big glob of it every morning that they had it. They had it the first 2 mornings that I was there, and then I guess they obviously changed the menu every so often and changed the whatever, and then have it later on. But it was so delicious. It was the most delicious thing that I've had the entire trip was that pumpkin, like that is this pumpkin paste. Like if you just like mashed up the pumpkins, just like paste consistency, almost like mashed potatoes consistency, but like a little bit thinner. And then they must have something else, seasonings or whatever. Obviously, I don't know what was in the seasoning for all the different things at the buffet. So a little bit it was, I just had to eat. I had to eat something at the buffet. So I just try to pick things that I think would be okay. And yeah, I ate like a variety of different things, and it was all good. They had an omelet station, so I had eggs. Yeah, so that was that. The weather there wasn't as humid as I thought. It was only about as humid as what it is in LA, or maybe just slightly more. It's not as bad as Singapore, for example, where it's like 100, 200% humidity. It wasn't that bad. And for those first few days, I was just concentrating on my diet and just doing the collabs. And I never really wanted to go and explore everywhere. I mentioned before, I don't really like doing touristy things. It was just warm enough that I didn't, in the normal circumstances, it wasn't that warm. And it wasn't super humid on the grand, in a relative sense. So it would have been fine for me to walk around. But I usually, if I am going to go do a bunch of collabs, I usually will do a fake tan. And I did a fake tan at home. I usually do it right before, the night before I have to go to the airport. And same for this trip. So I still have some of it on me. You can't see it, even though I'm on camera on the video version of this podcast, which is available on Spotify and the YouTube channel, Just WT. It's coming off in like a weird way. You can't see it, but you have to be up close. And some of it is still on me. But anyways, when you have a fake tan, you want it to last. And I was in Korea for a whole week. And usually you can expect a fake tan to last anywhere from 3 to 5 days. There's a few variables there. I do whatever I can. The trip was for a week, so I was doing everything that I can to make it last. So that means not walking around in warm and humid weather because you're going to sweat, and just staying in the air-conditioned room. The air conditioning was actually like semi-broken. It was not very, it was acceptably cool, barely. And if you were just sitting in the room not doing anything, if you were doing some exercise in your room, it got warm. So, but anyways, that wasn't something I had time to fight the front desk over. They said they would send an engineer and they didn't. Anyways, so I ended up just not going out because I had to protect my fake tan so that, I would look decent on camera and also for the rest of the trip. The only place I went was a local cosmetics chain, which is called, what is it called? Olive Young, which is the Seoul, Korea equivalent of Sephora, basically. And it's everywhere. Because K-beauty is such a big thing. They have these Olive Young. It's this big cosmetic skincare chain. It's just like Sephora, just the Korean version. And there was one very close to the hotel. And the first night, I just went there to get hairspray and I think some body lotion. Usually, these are things I usually try to buy wherever I'm traveling to because it doesn't always make sense to pack certain toiletries. Sometimes it's just better to buy some of your toiletries, after you get to wherever you're going. So I walked up to the counter. I was looking for some stuff, and I could hear at the cash register the girls behind the counter speaking English because there were some customers that spoke English to them, and they were like conversing to check out their items. When I got up there, because I look East Asian, because I am East Asian, so when I got up there, I said "안녕하세요," which is Korean for hello. "안녕하세요." The chick just assumed I spoke Korean, so she was checking my items and she asked me a question. I had no idea what she said, and I just said sorry in English. I just said sorry, and then she said, "Oh, do you have a frequent shopper's card or whatever?" And I said no. But I had no idea. There's no way I could have learned what she was gonna say. Honestly, that was a slightly specific question. The trick after that that I learned to do when I needed to go into a shop or converse with people locally is when I first go up to them, I would say 안녕하세요, but I'll also say hello in English because so I'm saying hi to you in Korean so that you know that I'm saying hi to you, because they may or may not speak English. But then also saying hello in English right after is like a clue to them that, oh, he might want to speak English. So I kind of developed that trick. 안녕하세요, hello. Because there's no other reason you would say hello in two different languages otherwise. You wouldn't say hello twice. The only time, the first few days where I had to speak actual Korean, because at the hotel, you don't need to speak Korean. Hotels tend to be multilingual, and a lot of hotel staff around the world, they would just speak English because so many tourists speak English. So the only time at the hotel that I speak Korean was when you go to the buffet, you have to give them your room number. And I think the last morning that I was there, I was like, you know what? I need to try out my Korean. So so I went there. They asked for the room number, and I said, "Can I try to tell you my room number in Korean?" And I did it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's correct." But the pronunciation is not. The pronunciation is very difficult in the sense that certain syllables and sounds, there's no English equivalent. When I was trying to learn some of the Korean before the trip, the numbers especially, I was able to relate the pronunciation of some of that to the Cantonese that I do know. And then I was like, oh, okay, I can find how to pronounce this Korean word, basically the phonetic equivalent in Cantonese. So I actually knew how to pronounce some of those words and those sounds, but I knew that there was no English equivalent pronunciation or sounds for that word. So I was able to rely on what little bits of Cantonese I have in my head still, but I've lost a lot of it, honestly, because I haven't practiced it in so long. So that was the first few days. And then on Friday, I was supposed to switch to a different hotel in Itaewon, which is kind of sort of like the gay, where all the gay stuff is. It's not like West Hollywood, but it's the part of Seoul where there's like gay bars and a bunch of the gay stuff, basically, even though it's not entirely itself a gay district. And one of the reasons for switching hotels is the circuit party is hosted at that hotel. So they had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Those three parties were at like this space in like this event space at the hotel. And then on Sunday they had this pool party that turned out to be super far away at the airport, and we didn't end up going to that. But it was a much fancier hotel. I obviously didn't book a fancy hotel if I had a choice, but there weren't any other hotels in that area. So it was either stay at the host hotel, or you would have to basically do Ubers or taxis to get to and from the party. Basically, you have to stay at a hotel. There are no other hotels that were walking distance, and it wasn't super, super close to the subway. Well, I figured that it wasn't a super far walk, but to lug your luggage and all that kind of stuff would be like a little bit difficult. But I thought, okay, I booked it. It wasn't super expensive, but it was a pretty nice hotel, actually. So I stayed there and did the parties, went to the Friday party. My friend Jay, he was in Tokyo. He was visiting Tokyo before, and he was supposed to fly in Friday afternoon and stay at the hotel for like a couple of nights before staying with some friends. And there was a typhoon that was just off the coast of Tokyo, coming in Friday morning, basically. So it's right when his flight was scheduled. So he ended up coming in the day afterwards. So I got a little bit nervous or apprehensive in a way because this sounds completely selfish, but I was kind of sort of wanting to like go to the party with him because I have gone to parties in international locations before by myself. I went to Amsterdam Pride all by myself, and I went to like a few of the parties all by myself. I ended up running into people that I knew, but in an area where I didn't speak the language, I always feel like a little nervous going to a party where like I don't know anyone, because I don't really have any Korean friends, people that live in Korea. And I didn't speak the language, so it's like, yeah, I know how a circuit party works. Circuit parties don't work that differently no matter where you are. There could be a circuit party in Antarctica, and the protocols and procedures really wouldn't be that different from a circuit party in New York or in LA or wherever. So, but it was like, I was a little bit apprehensive, but it turned to be fine. My friend Jay put me in touch with a couple of his friends locally that was living in Seoul or like was also visiting. I actually ran into a couple of people that I knew that were like circuit friends, if you will. So that was fine. And I always find it a little bit weird to go to a circuit party in Asia, because the way that people look at me when I go to a party in Asia is very different than anywhere else. I always feel like people are looking at me a lot when I am in a party in Asia, especially if it's a party that's predominantly not, especially if it's a party where the attendees all come from Asia. I mentioned White Party Bangkok over New Year's. That happens almost every year for the past several years. That attracts a lot of international visitors, and including a lot of like Western people that live in like the Western side of the world. They visit. So in terms of the number of locals from Thailand, it's actually not that many. And in terms of number of boys that live in Asia that go to White Party Bangkok, I don't know, it's like maybe half. But this party, for example, I can tell 80 to 90% of the attendees were just from nearby in Asia, not from overseas. So it's always weird, because when I go to one of these parties, I feel like people are always looking at me. And I have this thing where I don't know where people are looking at me because they find me attractive, or if I have a booger on my face. And now it's probably because I do OnlyFans. I never know why people are looking at me. And in a way, that's like a little unsettling, because I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And I really, really don't. You would think that if someone is doing OnlyFans, they would just have good self-esteem. It's not that I have bad self-esteem. I just really don't know if there's a booger on my face, or if my hair is just like completely wild, because all these things. It's not that I don't have self-esteem. It's not that I don't think I look good. It's is there a booger on my face? Is there something in my teeth? I just don't know. So that's what it is. But I definitely get like a lot of looks. But also at a party, I don't tend to want to like make out with anyone. I usually don't do that. And it's pretty popular at a circuit party and stuff. And the next night, Jay was there, and I was like dancing with Jay and like a couple of our friends. And I think there were like a few times where I caught Jay just like laughing, and I would ask him, "What are you laughing at?" And basically he would tell me, "Those boys are hitting on you, and you're just oblivious." Hey, that guy's checking you out behind you, blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm too cool for people to hit on me, but when I'm at a circuit party with my friends, I'm usually there to dance and be with my friends. I'm not usually horny or looking to make out with people." And you can tell at a party if someone is trying to like flirt with you to like get a little action, not sexually, but like to like touch your arms, touch your body, or to like make out with you like that. You can tell versus someone who just want to be, I don't know. Most people don't go to a circuit party to just make friends. Okay, they want to like check out the guys and maybe like make out a little bit. Okay, so I can kind of tell. I don't know. There's this one guy. There's this one specific time of the party on Saturday night. There's a little bit later, and this guy that was like he was kind of cute. He was in a good, nice body, cute face, all that kind of stuff. He was good looking. That I think I knew he was trying to hit on me. And even Jay says so. And Jay's like, "Oh, that guy," he was dancing behind me. Jay said, "Oh, that guy's hot." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, instinctively I said, "Go hit on him." And he's like, "No, he's into you," which is like your friend's way of saying like, "Go talk to him." But I just wasn't interested. Not in him. I just wasn't interested in like anyone. So I don't know. It's like a little. You think I've gone to so many circuit parties, it'd be fine. But I usually don't get that because there's not, most of the circuit parties I go to are not over in Asia, and it's not mostly filled with people who are just like local or from the region. That's the only time where I get like looks. Because if I go to any circuit party in the US or, it's like no one looks at me the way that they would if I went to a party in Asia. And not the way that maybe someone who's like white is, because that's, predominantly more white people in the parties in the US. Especially in Europe, honestly. We've been to Madrid, we've been to Barcelona parties over there. No one looks at you if you're Asian. Or if you look like you're East Asian, whatever, no one really looks at you. And I don't need people to look at me, but when you go to a party and you have so many people that you see looking at you, you notice it. You notice it when people are looking at you. So in a way, I guess I should just assume they're looking at me because they find me attractive, which should be like a compliment. But sometimes it's just weird. We're not used to it for a room full of people and for so many of the eyes to be. I mean, I guess they're looking at everyone, honestly. I'm not trying to say I'm super hot or whatever, but it was just a little awkward for me when I catch someone look at me. And my standard thing is to not like make extended eye contact because I don't want to send the wrong signal that I'm looking. When you look at someone at a party or club or bar, if you make eye contact with them, you catch eye contact, you lock eyes, that's like the first sign that you're interested, right? You're getting someone's attention. So I try extra hard to not linger my eyes too long. So I a lot of times I'm just like staring out into the distance. I must look like to other people I'm out of it, but I'm just trying to not send the wrong signals to someone that, hey, I'm into you, come talk to me. But again, I'm just there to dance. I'm there with friends. This sounds like the the 1% problem, isn't it? Anyways, I just it was just weird for me. That was all. Okay. The parties were fine. I had fun hanging with Jay and also his friends. On Sunday, instead of going to that circuit pool party, we went to this like little bar. which was a lot of fun. And I walked over to where Jay's friend's place was, and then we ended up going to this bar where his friends was like the DJ. And I had some stuff with me in like a little drawstring bag, and I had my AirPods with me. So, because I was like taking a train, it was taking 20, 30 minutes to get to this guy's apartment. So I just had AirPods because, I was on the train, blah, blah, blah. Makes sense. And when we were going to this like afternoon bar thing, I thought, oh, we'll probably come back. So I took most of the stuff that I brought with me, just put in my pockets, like wallet and key cards and all that kind of stuff. But I left the AirPods because I don't need earbuds. We were going to a bar, and I assumed we would just come back because it was only 4 o'clock when we left the apartment. We ended up not coming back from the bar, and the afternoon bar thing, basically, we were there from 5 until like 10 o'clock. And I didn't expect that we were going to be there for over 5 hours, basically. Because after that, we went to a club, like a proper club, because it was nighttime now, that was pretty much right next door, called Public. And I had a great time there because all they played was remixes of K-pop girl groups, which is the only kind of K-pop I listen to. And they played Twice, which is my favorite K-pop girl group. Therefore, my favorite K-pop. They played it, well, I was only there for like 2 hours. So they played it twice or 3 times when I was there. So I was like so happy they played Twice because I love Twice. However, it got to be like 1:30 or something. I guess we were there for like maybe 3 or 4 hours. It got to be like 1:30-ish, and I was thinking, you know what? I've been out for so long. It was over 5 hours at the afternoon bar thing. And now, I guess now that I'm doing the math, we got there like 10:30, 11. It was like 3 hours at this, nightclub. And I've been out for 8 or 9 hours. And I didn't realize I didn't have my AirPods until I went to leave the club and walk home. This was actually walking distance to the hotel, wherever that club was. And I exited the thing, and it just suddenly popped into my head after I exited the club and left everyone behind. Oh, my AirPods are at like the guy's place. So I just I messaged Jay, and I was like, oh, can I come over sometime after 11 a.m. in the morning to pick up AirPods? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh, sorry if I'm going to disturb you from sleeping. And he's like, oh, no, I'm like a vampire. Fine, I don't sleep that much. Long story short, they were out all night, and they went to another bar, because I saw on Jay's Instagram. So they probably didn't get home till like 7 or 8 a.m. maybe, which is fine. Like, it's their night out. But that meant I wasn't able to get my AirPods back. Because everyone was just asleep. So I was like, oh, I have to travel all the way from Seoul all the way back into LA with no headphones or earbuds. That was like, I was dreading it a little bit. If I had actual income like a normal person, I probably would have tried to buy maybe some set of earbuds at the airport or something. But I was like, no, we don't have money for this. I have lots of headphones at home. I won't die if I don't have a set of my own going back to LA. Because I knew that on the flight, they would hand out the earbuds for you to watch TV on the seat backs and stuff or whatever. So that was fine. I was connecting through San Francisco on the way back. So Seoul to SFO, then SFO to LAX. I had like a 4 or 5 hour layover in SFO, which is fine. I just went to the lounge. But had a decent seat. The flight was actually fine. Crossing the Pacific, I was feeling good. No illnesses or symptoms. But sometimes you travel and sometimes you just feel like a little bit weird. Not like full on sick, but like just like a little bit, not 100%. But I was feeling fine. And the flight was okay. Had the disposable earbuds, so I was, like watching something on the monitor on the seat back. And when I was going to the airport, when I was still in Seoul, I went all the way to the guy's apartment and messaged them like, hey, I'm here to pick my earbuds. No one was there. I went to the Starbucks just to like hang out for like 30, 45 minutes, see if they might wake up. And eventually I have to like cut my loss and just go to the airport to catch my flight. When I left when I got onto the subway in the middle of Seoul, I was walking down a set of stairs to the platform holding my luggage, and I rolled my left ankle, so which was not good. I did fall over at least, but I rolled it a little bit, not to the point where I don't think I fractured anything. I think I just rolled it. So I was limping the whole way from Seoul all the way to Incheon Airport. I was just taking the train, so I was able to grab a seat at least, but it was a little bit more difficult having to limp and with the busted ankle now and having the luggage to carry. I had a carry-on the backpack. I didn't check any luggage. You know what? In retrospect, maybe I should have just checked the carry-on suitcase. So I had one less thing to carry when I was on the plane with the ankle. Anyways, I didn't, but I'm just used to just carrying on everything. But that made it more fun. But anyways, I got to the airport and had a bunch more food. And by this time of the trip, by the way, I know this episode is like super long. I see I'm recording for 35 minutes, but this is my podcast and I'll do whatever I want. So I'm going to keep talking until I want to stop. By this point of the trip, I didn't really need to be careful with what I ate anymore because I was so restrictive on my diet for pretty much the entire trip. But I knew that, you know what, by the time I was, leaving for the airport, if I really needed to go to the bathroom, it's fine. Like I'll be like at the lounge or like on the plane, like the bathroom is right there. And I can blow ass from that point. And it would be okay. So at the lounge, at the airport before my flight, I just kind of sort of ate whatever because they had this like blueberry tart, which looked super delicious. So I had a couple slices of that. Luckily, nothing happened. I was completely fine the whole way back. But I just kind of sort of ate whatever. And then the next funny thing that happened was we're boarding the flight, walking on the jet bridge towards the boarding door of the plane. And there's a galley that's kind of exactly right dead center where the door of the plane is. You walk into the plane and the galley is like right there on this plane. See this like young, cute kid. He looks 16, by the way. He looks super young, but saw this like kid who gaydar is going off, obviously. And it's like, looks a little familiar. Some other flight attendant was at the door to greet everyone and look at your seating assignment to direct you to where to go to get to your seat. And then this guy was just working the galley, wasn't looking up because he was busy doing stuff. And I was like, he looks familiar. And then just as I passed him, behind him, he was busy at the galley, to get to that side of the plane and go down to where my seat was, I pulled up my Grindr. And then it turns out it was a guy that had messaged me on Grindr the day before on Sunday when we were out at the bar in the afternoon. Nothing came of it. We just had the shortest of conversations, didn't go anywhere. And I was busy, he was busy. And then I looked on his profile and it said he was cabin crew. So I was like, oh, that must be him. Anyways, I'm limping my ankle with my luggage to my seat, and he's working business class at the pointy end of the plane, and I'm I'm near the back of the plane in coach. So I never saw him again. But I did notice it. And then when we were leaving the flight, it was awkward because that was the part of the trip where my leg hurt the most, because to walk in a way that didn't make the ankle hurt worse, I kind of needed space to sway a little bit. When you kind of stumble forward a little bit so that you don't put so much weight on one foot. But the aisles on the plane are very, very tight, and I had this suitcase I had to roll in front of me and not bash into all the seats and everything. When I was exiting the plane, I just looked super clumsy, and I didn't make myself look good. If you're about to get on a flight home, you don't expect them to see anyone or meet anyone. So I did my hair, but just very basically, I didn't doll myself up. Let's put it that way. Exited the plane, and I had to go through that same galley where we boarded, because only you have to exit through the boarding door. Everybody had to go through that door. And obviously, he was standing right there to say bye to all the guests that were leaving the plane. Because that, if you ever on a flight, when you're exiting, all the flight attendants are basically just, saying thank you, goodbye, blah, blah, blah. So I passed right by him because he was just standing right there, and that's where I had to turn into the galley to exit the plane. And I was limping because that was the point where my foot hurt the most. And because the aisles were so narrow, it was like super awkward for me to like walk. So I didn't even like hold my head out. I just have my head down. I know it's him. I don't really want to be meeting any guys right now. I almost don't want him to think it's me. I just had this long ass flight. I probably looked like shit. My hair was a mess. And I'm walking super awkwardly, crashing into the walls, crashing into the seats, trying to push this piece of luggage in front of me and lift my left foot along behind me. So like I was just like looking down and just doing my best to exit the plane without, yeah. Anyways, so he's like, oh my God, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I just rolled my ankle. And I didn't make eye contact. I still have my head down. He's like, oh, I'll be get better soon. It's like, oh yeah, thanks. Blah, blah, blah. That was it. So that was fun to do. And afterwards, I realized that I left a little toiletry, my own personal toiletry kit that I keep in my travel backpack that's got like floss and toothbrush and earplugs and stuff. I left it on the plane. Anyways, I just forgot it. It's a minor thing. After I got from San Francisco back to LA, or like hours and hours afterwards, I did message him on Grindr to say, oh, thanks for working my flight to SFO. Hope you had a good layover in Seoul. And then later he replied, oh, that was you. I hope your ankle's feeling better. So he did recognize that it was me when he saw me limp out of the plane. So yeah, that was fun. My foot is quite a bit better now. It's Wednesday night that I'm recording this. So it's been 48 hours since I've gotten home. And yesterday, I just did the minimal amount of walking. I had to get groceries, and I couldn't walk like usual. I had to drive because I just didn't want to do a bunch of walking. But yeah, I guess it's in a way, it wasn't the most adventurous trip, but in a way, you know, with like going to the party by myself, which was like a little awkward in a way, it was a little bit awkward for me. And then the whole AirPods debacle, and then rolling my ankle on the way back. It was plenty adventurous for me. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go back to Seoul again. It's a really nice city and place. It's just that, yeah, I don't know. Right now, all I can think about is just getting back into my regular routine and making sure my ankle heals. I have this like chest muscle that I stretched just like overextended, I guess the term, but just a little bit too much a month ago. And I went to the gym today and I just tried to do some light chest exercises, and I can still feel that something is like a little bit off. Oh, I'm related, but I call Kaiser Permanente, which is like my health insurance / medical company thing, and to make an appointment for something for next week. And they're like, oh, it says you're not a member. And I was on the phone the entire morning for like 4 hours on and off yesterday morning, Tuesday, to talk to a bunch of different people for my health insurance, which should not have been switched off. I was not behind on payments. I've been paying everything, and somehow it just switched off. And it was like not the first time that has happened this year. So I spent Tuesday morning very frustrated and upset that I don't have health insurance right now through no fault of my own. Apparently it had expired like a few weeks ago, and I got no notification. I didn't tell them to do it, all that kind of stuff. So yesterday was like a frustrating day for like a completely different reason. But like, anyways, yeah, I got this chest muscle that I had like overextended, overstretched doing bench press a month ago. I wanted to go to PT for it, but now I can't go to PT, but it's my insurance. It's not on. They're going to turn it back on, but it takes like 10 to 14 days. Health insurance is so backwards in the US. It is so ridiculous. And they keep on messing mine up. They keep on like revoking it for absolutely no reason. And when I call them, they can't tell why. So like the root problem is not getting fixed. Okay, that's a whole other can of worms. We're 45 minutes into this podcast now. So I will leave it at that. And until next time, bye y'all.